All right, y'all. We got the six triple eight, right? New film by Tyler Perry, which tells a story about the six triple eight battalion in World War II, an all black female battalion responsible for sending, sorting, backlog mail. Because at that time, the motto was "No mail, low morale." This was to keep men at war's morale up. Communication. Remember, this was way before the type of technology we have now, so they had a very important job, and it just tells the story about that. But I wish it would have told more about the story of it. So people online really disagreed with my critiques and my review of the film, and I watched a majority of it, or at least half of it, I believe, and then I fell asleep. And I felt like I just made several points. And if you like to watch a review, go to my TikTok. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you follow me there and tap in. Let me know what you think about my review. But I had a lot of things that I did not like about the film, and several things that I did like about the film. But look at what people said online though when they came to my TikTok. Let me see. Where's it at? All right. I think you need to research the women that are playing. You can keep part two. It's not needed. Get a history book respectfully. I said nothing that was historically inaccurate. Do you know this is based on a real woman's experience? I think a lot of people were saying that in response to the fact that I was like, I didn't really see the necessity of the white guy Abram and Lena. Like he kept popping up throughout the whole movie. So they probably was telling me that because they're saying like, it's historically accurate. So why would you know what I'm saying? But okay, cool. Anyway, yeah, can't we be friends? See, some people agreed. Some of the be sassy type is getting old talking about one of the characters in the movie. Yup. um yeah, this is a long way to say I don't like black women because I don't like one movie about black women. That means I don't like black women now. Like I like Harriet. I like Hidden Figures, a historical film, and that was fire. But I thought, let me go see what the professionals say then. So I looked up a post, an article by the Huff Post, and it included some writers which seem by the judging by their name, I think they seem to be of either black or brown descent. But I agree with a lot of their points. So let's get into that part. Okay. We got the Six Triple Eight is based on an incredible real life story, but doesn't do it justice. Hmm. I'm sorry. I might pause a lot for this. Let me just try to get through this. All right. All right. We had high hopes for the Six Triple Eight. Higher we typically have for Tyler Perry Productions. With a strong trailer cast and a story backed by the unsung heroes of the Six Triple Eighth Battalion, we thought it would be a different. We thought it would be different than the filmmaker's other work, especially since his writing had to stay within the confines of historical facts, like I said. Right? That partially happened, as some truly moving moments highlight the resilience and bravery of the only all black battalion of the Women's Army Corps who served overseas during World War II, led by Majority Charity Adams, Kerry Washington. The 6888 tells the story of how these women created a process to deliver thousands of pieces of backed up mail and parcels to soldiers and their families during the war. The film is at its best when leaning into their story, sisterhood, and how they overcame when they faced racism, how they overcame when faced with racism, sexism, and adversity. I appreciate that. Like, let's tell other parts of the story. Like, if I didn't like black women, then I wouldn't be so interested in the other character stories instead of just minimalizing them with negative stereotypes and play like characters. Anyway, where it falls short, however, is within the same tropes that often plague Perry's work. Flat and stereotypical depictions of black women distract from the story. The film spends too much time seesawing between the love stories Lena Derricott, played by Ebony Obsidian, has with her late white lover who was killed at war, and the black soldier she meets while serving. Excuse me. Fleshing out the plot and characters with more depth and nuance would have been a more productive use of time. Still, it is important that the 6888th Battalion story is being told. We just hope that it isn't limited to this one film. All things that I said already, these are professionals saying it, right? We break down our thoughts and reactions to the 6888 here. Let's talk about the cats and their performances. I would never not admire writer-director Tyler Perry for being able to get some of the most talented black actors in Hollywood in his movies. Despite many of the movies being quite bad: Oprah Winfrey, Kerry Washington, and Sam Waterston, Susan Sarandon, Dean Norris. The problem is rarely ever the cast. In this case, that includes the lesser-known prominent cast members like Ebony Obsidian, Shanice Shante, and Pepe Sanuga. I hope I said that right. Shout out to you, Pepe. The issue, as always, is the histrionic performances they're likely directed to deliver. Is that histrionic? Histrionic. Okay. The issue, as always, is the histrionic performances they're likely directed to deliver. On one end, you have Obsidian as Lena, melodramatically throwing her body over her special friends. I hesitate to call him a boyfriend because she specifically says he is not grave. On the other, you have each and every bad white person in the movie being so cartoonishly awful, and it's almost funny at times, and it shouldn't be. These women dealt with a lot of racism and other forms of dehumanization. Nothing about that is funny. Even more well-known characters like Winfrey's Mary McLeod Bethune and Sarandon's Eleanor Roosevelt came across as merely human-adjacent, one-dimensional, and instantly forgettable. In the midst of all that, Washington's mouth quiver is doing all of her acting as Major Charity Adams. We all know Kerry Washington going to do the mouth quiver. Like, if you go watch one of her films, it's like if you watching a Denzel flick, you know he's going to do the. He might say, "I guarantee." Throw hands off me. He's gonna hit you with the Denzel spin. A lot of people don't know about the Denzel spin, but he might hit you with the Denzel spin too. So just be prepared for that. But being that they focus so heavily on and rely so heavily on her acting, we got mad lip quiver. We got lip quiver throughout, and we got OD monologues. Like, you remember Great Debaters when Journey Smollett? Shout out to Journey Smollett. Remember the Great Debaters when she had her monologue and they're like, "Ma'am, are there other sources?" And she says, "Yes, there are other sources. I like the look in the mother's eyes when a child is crying." Like, they did that to Kerry Washington like 10 times in the movie. But I digress for now. I'm going down to Dixie. Hooray, hooray. All right. And what we got here? What I leave off it? It's such a shame because the cast is so talented and obviously the story is an important one to tell, but it's really in the wrong hands. I wonder how a talented black filmmaker would have handled this. This says Candace, right? Look at that picture. It's so beautiful. My gripe with every Tyler Perry project is that the cast's performances oftentimes feel stiff or hollow, as if they're being directed to act a particular way to deliver a vision that only makes sense to Perry. That said, it's a miracle that Kerry Washington was able to conjure a performance that, in my opinion, saved the premise of the movie. Only her scenes as Major Charity Adams seem to drive home what the 688 should have been all about. The feat of sorting through a backlog of correspondence between American soldiers and their loved ones while a racist military awaits their failure. Her performance was more arresting than whatever Oprah Winfrey and Susan Sarandon's cameos were meant to rouse. But there weren't too many standouts, even with Ebony Obsidian positioned as one of the main leads. I agree with all of that there. I agree with all of that. Exactly, because Kerry Washington, like I said, we relied on her primarily. And, like, wouldn't it be dope to know a little bit more about what Mary McLeod Bethune had to do with this, if she had more to do? But let's proceed. Quality not matching the caliber of talent is an issue that's popped up regularly in Perry's last decade of films, but it would have been nice for him to prove that wrong with the 688, says Najera. I hope I said your name right as well, sis. I've been watching Tyler Perry's Sisters since it premiered in 2019. It's a soap opera of a TV series that keeps you hooked with these storylines that have micro updates and crazy cliffhangers every week. You know, people like drama, like dun dun dun. That's the dun 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 effect. Ebony Obsidian stars on that series and stars as Lena in the 688. Her character on Sisters is so aggravating that it was quite refreshing to see her in this role. But otherwise, ditto on everything Candace and Najera have said about the casting here, says Aaron. For me, I just wonder what would happen if Perry gave the cast and crew ample time to do their jobs instead of rushing to shoot everything with such a tight window. And if he gave another black writer an opportunity instead of writing a script like this in 2 weeks. I did not know he wrote it in 2 weeks, but it feels rushed. And you can tell it's a Tyler Perry written style. We don't need him to bleed through every style. This could have been dope. But again, like I said before, I hope this is not the last time that they tell this story. Unpacking Lena and Abram's love story, the white boy. That was Abram. I was going to call him Abe earlier. This is part of the plot I don't quite understand, because Ford determined to bring a little-known true story to the big screen and spent a lot of time fleshing out the origins and aftermath of this interracial romance between Lena and Abram, which could have been dialed back to properly honor the work of the 688th Battalion. Abram's ghost, if we can call it that, had odd cameos that took away from the point of them for me. I didn't expect his presence or lack thereof to have such a profound impact on Lena either, especially during her assignment overseas. At times, it felt like the movie was trying to manipulate emotional moments out of Lena's grief to justify all the mentions of Abram's tragic death throughout. And I was over it by the time she finally found the grave. Yo, facts. He was a star in the film for some reason. Like, bro, you didn't deliver no mail. No rain, no sleet, no snow, no nada. Again, this relationship didn't have to become a central part of the 688 story, but I guess I can't expect Tyler Perry to commit to a full-on war drama without getting to his melodramatic tendencies, says Najera. Okay, I think I kept screaming at my TV screen a version of how is she so sprung on a man she kissed that one time and who wasn't really in a relationship with, despite him sort of proposing to her. I could believe that maybe the two were in a relationship and that when tragedy struck, she was devastated. But the movie only really puts them in maybe one scene together, two at most, and just ask the audience to just roll with this great love story. Is it love? And is it even a story for that matter? For a movie to rely so heavily on their dynamic without actually building their dynamic is a choice. Man, it's a bad one. I also just find it interesting that a movie that is supposed to center the black and brown women of this battalion was usurped by the love story of a dead white guy. I also just find it interesting that a movie that is supposed to center the black and brown women of this battalion was usurped by the love story of a dead white guy, Candace. Ditto, Candace says a lot about this film's intention, says Najera. I realized early on we're getting off on the wrong foot with this love story. I totally agree with you, Kansas. Unless that was a part of the real Lena's story, like I said, if it wasn't a part of her real story, if this wasn't real life and it wasn't completely accurate, even still, if it was, he did not need to be in the film that much. But still, let's continue. It was unnecessary to introduce us to Abram. And if it wasn't part of the real story, Perry did a poor job correlating Abram's death to why Lena wanted to go to the military. Facts. Because just because he went to the military, now you got a undying passion to deliver, like, or do something for the war, please. Lena and Hugh's underdeveloped love story. Right. Her husband, Hugh Bell, the guy she married, had kids with. I almost wish the film never entertained a romance between Lena and Private Hugh Bell because so many of the encounters were dampened by Lena crying over the loss of Abram, which sure realistically makes sense, but it's hard to cling to the potential of this budding affair through fleeting conversations, but somehow lead to them eventually being wed. I didn't really buy it. I wish they spent as much time developing a real connection between Hugh and Lena as they did with building the latter's arc around a dead white guy she was barely committed to. When he tells Lena that he broke off his engagement to the other woman, I literally shook my head in confusion. He had like 2 conversations with Lena at that point, and she was barely paying him any attention. It felt like such an afterthought of a storyline that was wedged into the film, only because in real life, Lena ended up marrying Hugh. I will say that I wrote down civil rights era fine in my notes about Jay Reeves, the actor who portrays Hugh. She's saying that he's good looking. Tyler Perry does hire handsome men for some reason. They nailed his whole look down for that era, says Aaron. They nailed everybody's look down, but they definitely got his haircut. But you saw the women with the natural hair, the stretch back, you know what I'm saying? The salon scene was dope. I would love to see some pictures and some history on how they got that broke down school, because they renovated an empty school as a base for themselves. It was dope. As soon as Hugh helped Lena down from that truck, I knew Tyler Perry was Tyler Perrying. If the girl is mourning her dead boyfriend, who's clearly haunting her low key, why do you have a love story already brewing for her? I really wish Perry would have picked between the love stories because it seemed like too much of a task to do both. Balancing one with telling such an important story is enough if you must bring romance into it. And him leaving his wife after just 3 conversations with Lena really pissed me off. But at that same time, I wouldn't put it past men of that era. Lafayette and Taryn, men did often leave their beloveds on a hope and a prayer with another woman who most definitely was not checking for them back then, and maybe still today. I don't know. I actually had to look up who Hugh was, because he sure was an afterthought in this movie, and certainly to Lena. When she told Major Adams that Hugh would make sure she got home after she finished visiting her dead crush, I was like, okay, you really do not like Hugh like that at all. And he clearly is smitten, because why else would he accompany his crush to another man's grave so she could weep all over it? How incredibly sad for Hugh. Also, I agree with Orlia about Perry not knowing how to build either of these love stories. Neither make a lick of sense. I would imagine there is so much that happened within this battalion, and yet we don't learn much about it throughout the movie. I said this. Most of what we learn actually is in a few sentences of a postscript. And all to tell not one, but 2 terribly constructed love stories that ultimately have nothing to do with anything here. A mess, says Candace. So, all right, so they're going to highlight some nice things about it. And I tried. I tried myself to highlight some good things about the film. I like the wardrobe, fire. Beautiful black women, fire. The story being told, fire. A little bit less on Kerry Washington's monologues. That would have been dope. Um, Scenery, amazing. Those are mine. Those are mine. That's what I got. I'm yeah. Good, shout out to the looking black people. But what does work in the film? I was surprised by how emotionally I reacted to a couple of moments in the film. I boo-hoo cried when the battalion walked off that ship that carried them over to Europe for their mission. They enjoyed a rough ride overnight through a storm and walked off that ship like they gotten a full night's rest and were ready to take on the day. They lined themselves up to march through Glasgow as the general halt ordered. They were sharp and in sync. I just kept thinking of all the moments black women have defied the odds and shown up despite their circumstances. It was really moving. The other moment was when they all clapped for Major Adams after she stood up to the general. I thought both of those moments were pulled together, were well put together. I think so too. The march seems a little kind of cringy, but I like the cadence when they hit the pop, 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 because that's only they could hit the cadence. You know, I mean, I highly doubt they had to practice that too many times. Let me just say that about my black women. You feel me? The costumes are good. Oh, shout out to Debbie Allen. Debbie Allen had a hand in choreographing the march. I believe. Check that out for me, y'all. I like that the film tried to establish some kind of sisterhood between Lena and the girl she rode to training camp with. It felt like more of an intimate window into who the black and brown women of the 688th Battalion were, including the caricature of Shani Shantae's Johnny May, though I enjoyed the actor in The Wiz Live. Yeah, Shanice Shantae as Johnny May. Johnny May was the fat, black, dark skinned upset, sassy woman, and they try to always perpetuate that negative stereotype about our black women, our dark skinned women, and our big black dark skinned women. I don't like that. They try to make it seem like she was hypersexualized and stuff. Like they even made it seem like the only reason she came to the army was for men. But let's continue. I apologize. Where we at? Where we at? Where was I? Their bond was more interesting to me than the romances that Lena was stuck on. And for what it's worth, I did appreciate that the film didn't gloss over the intricacies of the system that the battalion established, so we could actually understand how they, above everyone else who tried and failed, managed to sort and deliver thousands of pieces of mail to soldiers and their families way before the 6 month deadline. I like that part too. Um, Only gripe I have with that part, I would say, is the scene where they do it. It was kind of rushed as well. It was like, oh, don't you like crossword puzzles? Yes, I do like crossword puzzles. I went to the garment district. I did this. I did like the call out style of it. It was a little too cliche, a little too Disney. Could have did a little bit more with that, but I still like the fact that they gave us insight to that because my favorite part about that is the drawing of the shapes, how the soldiers drew shapes of the places that they were so their loved ones back home would know where they were on their missions. I love that. That was dope. That was cool. So yeah, let me get back into this though. I'm almost done, y'all. I agree, Najira. I really wish the foundation of the story would have been sisterhood instead of these love stories that barely fleshed out. The best parts of the film occur when it's just the women bantering, supporting each other, and making a way out of no way. This is correct. I also appreciated the historical footage and short feature of the real Lena at the very end, though I do wish we would have had more context around if those were her words she was reading or Perry's words that he asked her to read. For real, because it sounded yeah, the story of the 688 is important, and this film is at its best when it's focusing on that. That's a fact. Should have focused way more on the women. What doesn't work in the film? Um, yeah, so that's just pretty much. And these are professionals, and I believe they're black professionals. Give them a look up. Let me go back and so make sure I can accredit them. This is from the HuffPost, and this is written by Aaron E. Evans, Triple E, Taryn Finley, Candace Frederick, and Najira Perkins. Okay, I hope I said everyone's name correctly, but go shout out to those people. Look them up. Let's list them out. See what they're talking about. This was published on December 20th, 2024. Mother, please forgive me for the multiple ums. I'm working on it. Okay, I'm not perfect yet, just striving for it. All right. But yeah, y'all check it out. Y'all let me know what y'all think of the film. If y'all didn't see the film as of yet, spoiler alert, my bad. My bad. But I'm saying make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? How do you feel about Tyler Perry films? How do you feel about the 688? Did you watch it yet? Make sure you tap in. Go ahead and follow me on all my platforms. Peace. Hold on. What's that? Oh, let me read it. But yeah, That's what I think about it. Let me know what y'all think about it below. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Most definitely subscribe, and let me know if you want me to do more things like this, more reviews about films and things of that nature. What did y'all think about the movie? And if you didn't see the movie, please go see it. Support anyway. You know what I'm saying? Gotta support on. So yeah, like, share, subscribe, follow me on all socials. Till next time, I see ya. Peace. All right, end recording.